Today, I'm going to be talking about Constantine, the TV series. Happy New Year and welcome back. And if you're new to this channel and like what you see, please like and subscribe. Although I really like the movie starring Keanu Reeves, for me, Matt Ryan is the definitive and more accurate version of Constantine. Let me know in the comments below who you prefer as Constantine. And now, it's trivia time. Where did the character of Constantine make his first appearance? Stay tuned to the end to find out. Spoilers ahead, just in case you haven't gotten round to watching it yet. The short-lived series ran between 2014 to 2015. It starred Matt Ryan in the titular role of Constantine, Harold Perrineau as Manny, Charles Halford as Chas Chandler, and Angelica Celaya as Zed Martin. There were 13 episodes in total. The pilot, titled Non Es Asylum, was directed by Neil Marshall, who also directed Dog Soldiers, an awesome werewolf movie which I highly recommend, and The Descent, which is also a pretty solid movie in my opinion. The show seemed to be heading in one direction, with Lucy Griffiths playing Liv Aberdeen, then completely changed for the remaining episodes, which would then drop that character completely with not even a mention of her. The effects in this episode were very well done, and the demons looked rather scary. We even get a comic accurate backstory to a tragedy in Constantine's past. This was a solid start to a series that would get better and better as it went along. Episode 2, titled The Darkness Beneath, was directed by Steve Schill. Here, Constantine visits a small mining community deep into the western mountains of Pennsylvania, where he goes up against an ancient Welsh spirit. This episode introduces us to Zed Martin, who will become a regular character. Episode 3, titled The Devil's Vinyl, was directed by Romeo Tyrone. In this episode, we see John and Zed having to save a family from a cursed vinyl that has catastrophic effects on anyone unfortunate enough to listen to it. A highly entertaining episode which introduces us to Papa Midnight, played by Michael James Shaw. Episode 4, titled A Feast of Friends, was directed by John F. Showalter and is based on The Hunger, which was the first issue of Hellblazer published in January 1988. When Constantine's old friend Gary Lester, played by John Joe O'Neill, accidentally releases a powerful demon in Atlanta, John is forced to make a very difficult decision that does not bode well for Gary. Episode 5, titled DANSE, VAUDOU, was directed by John Badham. In New Orleans, Constantine must form an alliance with Papa Midnight when a voodoo ritual to help people communicate with their dead loved ones takes a deadly turn. This episode introduces us to Detective Jim Corrigan. Those in the know will recognize his name as a detective whose soul merges with the spirit of vengeance, the Spectre, one of my favorite DC characters. Episode 6, titled Rage of Caliban, sees Neil Marshall return as director. In this episode, Constantine is put in a situation where he must exorcise a child who has been taken over by a malevolent spirit, whilst trying to convince his parents that their child is not all that he seems. The tone is darker in this one, and Matt Ryan gets to chew his way through some great monologues. Episode 7, titled Blessed Are the Damned, was directed by Nick Gomez. In this episode, Zed has a bizarre vision of snakes while in class. This leads her and Constantine to a small town where they encounter Pastor Zachary, a preacher who can heal people from their illnesses. Constantine and Zed have the suspicions that this power is not some blessing from God, but instead emanates from something more sinister. Episode 8, titled The Saint of Last Resort, was directed by T.J. Scott and is part 1 of a 2-part episode. Anne-Marie, a member of the Newcastle crew, asks Constantine and Chas for help in Mexico City, bringing them close to something called the Heart of the Rising Darkness. In the meantime, Zed is being haunted by her past. During a conversation with Anne-Marie, played by Claire Van Der Boom, Constantine refers to a demon called Pazuzu. Fans of The Exorcist will recognize that name, as it's the demon who possessed Regan. Episode 9, titled The Saint of Last Resorts, Part 2, was directed by Romeo Tyrone. Constantine summons a demon into himself to help fend off an attack with dire consequences. Chaz, Zed and Anne-Marie rush to save the now possessed Constantine. This is an awesome episode which will keep you on the edge of your seat. Episode 10, titled Quid Pro Quo, was directed by Mary Harron, who also directed American Psycho starring Christian Bale, a film I'm yet to watch. In this episode, thousands of people in Brooklyn, including Chaz's daughter, slip into comas. Constantine must locate and defeat the evil forces responsible. This episode focuses on Chaz and explains how Chaz's life was changed due to his partnership with Constantine and how he got his powers. Episode 11, titled A Whole World Out There, was directed by Thomas J. Wright. Constantine is sent to help his old friend Richie at Ivy University, where students have figured out how to get to an alternate dimension, only to be met by a killer. In this episode, Richie talks about the concept of the singularity and a human merging with a computer. In the graphic novel, Richie's essence ultimately ends up trapped within a computer and the overall web of computer connections when his body is accidentally destroyed by Constantine before he can return to it. Episode 12, titled Angels and Ministers of Grace, was directed by Sam Hill. Constantine asks Manny to help him investigate a mysterious attack at a hospital. A health issue prompts Zed to question her visions. Manny gets a lot more to do here and plays a large role in the overall narrative. And finally, we have episode 13, titled Waiting for the Man, which was directed by David Boyd. Constantine and Zed return to New Orleans when Detective Jim Corrigan asks for their help in the case of a missing girl. In the meantime, Papa Midnight takes steps towards exacting his revenge on Constantine. Meanwhile, the truth behind the rising darkness comes to light. The episode is based on a story written by Jamie Delano, and in that story, it was Constantine's niece who was chosen to be the next child bride for the man. However, the child in this episode is no relation to Constantine. This is a very creepy and disturbing episode. Sadly, this would be the final episode. The show would be cancelled, leaving us with a cliffhanger that would never be resolved. Even an online petition, which received upwards of 50,000 signatures, could not save it. This was a series that seemed to get better and better as the episodes progressed. I loved sitting through all the episodes on streaming, and even bought the Blu-ray, knowing full well that there was never going to be a second season. It is my belief that the premature cancellation of this show was a big misstep. This show had a lot of life left. There were things set up which, if executed correctly, would have had a great payoff. Matt Ryan would continue to play Constantine in a few animated movies like Justice League Dark, Constantine City of Demons, Justice League Dark Apocalypse War, and DC Showcase Constantine The House of Mystery. He would also reprise the role in various TV shows like Arrow, Legends of Tomorrow, Batwoman, The Flash, and even the animated Harley Quinn show. His final appearance as Constantine would once again be in animated form, where he would appear in Justice League Crisis on Infinite Earths Part 2 and 3, which I am yet to watch. However, none of these appearances would touch on that cliffhanger from episode 13, which I think is such a shame. Constantine joins a long list of shows which suffered the same fate. Angel, starring David Boreanaz, being a prime example, which was also left with a cliffhanger. But at least we got 5 seasons of Angel. There was even a comic which carried on the story. Ironically, we never got such a thing for Constantine, being a character originating in the comics. And now to answer the trivia question. Constantine made his first appearance in Swamp Thing issue number 37, written by Alan Moore and drawn by Rick Veitch and John Tuttleben, and his appearance was inspired by Sting. Thank you for watching, And please like and subscribe if you enjoyed today's content. I have been JJP and look forward to discussing films and shows that we are all passionate about. Hope to see you soon.